Sprawled on the cold kitchen tiles, I clutched my abdomen, feeling a searing agony ripple through me as if a knife was twisting inside. My young daughter, Catherine, stood nearby, her face contorted with worry. "Mommy, are you okay?" she asked in a trembling whisper. Despite the sharp pain coursing through me, I forced a calm tone, trying to reassure her. "I'm fine, sweetheart. It's just a bad stomach ache," I lied, shielding her from the true severity of my condition. Footsteps echoed through the hallway, and my husband, Willie, appeared in the doorway, his expression more annoyed than concerned. With a suitcase in hand, he was clearly preparing for his trip. "What's happening, Amy? Why are you on the floor?" he asked, his voice dripping with irritation. "I think it's appendicitis, Willie. It's really bad. We need to go to the hospital," I gasped, each word laced with pain. He scoffed dismissively. "Appendicitis? You're probably just overreacting. It's probably just indigestion." I opened my mouth to argue, but another wave of pain seized me, silencing me. Willie glanced at his watch, his impatience palpable. "I can't miss this trip with Carol. Just call a taxi or something," he suggested with a wave of his hand, as if my agony was nothing more than a minor inconvenience. My disbelief at his lack of empathy deepened as I struggled to speak again. "Willie, I can't even move. Catherine's here. I need you," I pleaded, desperation creeping into my voice. He shook his head, unbothered. "It's probably nothing. Call if it gets worse." And with that, he left, his suitcase trailing behind him. Left alone, the pain racked my body, and I lay there, helpless with only Catherine by my side. Her small hands found mine, tears in her eyes. "Mommy, don't be sick. You have to be okay," she sobbed. Gathering every ounce of strength, I pulled her close. "I'm here, darling. Mommy's here." But with Willie gone, the urgency hit me hard. My hands shook as I reached for my phone, dialing the one person I knew would come. My brother Russell. The phone rang, cutting through the silence of the kitchen. "Hello," Russell's voice came through, a beacon of hope. "Russell, it's Amy. I need help. I think it's appendicitis. I can't move." I rushed out, each word a battle against the pain. Catherine clung to me, her fear evident. "And Catherine is scared," I managed to say, my voice breaking. There was a brief silence before Russell's calm, reassuring voice came through. "I'm on my way, Amy. Hold tight. I'll be there soon." Lying on the cold tiles, I closed my eyes, trying to bear the sharp pain that pulsed through my body. Catherine stayed close, her small presence offering a little comfort in the chaos. In that moment, a resolute feeling settled within me. Willie's neglect during such a critical time wasn't just hurtful, it was a profound betrayal. A shift had taken place in our relationship, and things would never be the same. Later, in the sterile hospital room, surrounded by the rhythmic beeping of machines, a sense of calm washed over me. The surgery to remove my inflamed appendix was a success, but the emotional wound Willie had inflicted still lingered. I had called my parents to look after Catherine while I recovered. Their voices, filled with concern, only made the absence of their questions about Willie's neglect weigh even more heavily in the air. 2 days later, I returned home, the physical pain now just a dull ache. Catherine's joy at seeing me again was a bright spot in the midst of everything. "Mommy, you're back. Are you all better now?" she asked with innocent hope. I embraced her tightly. "I'm getting there, sweetie," I replied, thankful for her comforting presence. But our peaceful reunion was short-lived. The next day, the loud slam of the front door shattered the calm. Willie and his sister Carol stormed in, frustration written all over their faces. "Why didn't you pick us up yesterday? We had to pay extra for a taxi and train fares." Willie's accusatory tone filled the room as he stormed into the living room. Anger surged within me at his audacity. "Welcome back. Must have been quite a journey," I replied, the bitterness clear in my voice. I met Willie's gaze, my response cold and measured. He faltered, momentarily taken aback by the icy reception. Even Carol seemed surprised, sensing the tension thickening in the room. "What's with the attitude, Amy?" Willie demanded, his tone sharp. I couldn't hold back any longer. "While you were off enjoying your trip, I was in the hospital," I replied, my voice calm but simmering with anger. I glared at Willie, then at Carol, who always seemed to pull him away from his responsibilities toward his own family. Carol's face flushed red, and Willie blinked, clearly confused. "What are you talking about? You're fine now, right?" he asked, dismissively. "It's not just about being fine, Willie. It's about being there when your family needs you," I shot back, my frustration boiling over. Before he could respond, the door swung open, and Russell walked in, followed by our parents and Willie's. Their eyes were filled with a mixture of anger and disappointment, all focused on Willie and Carol. Willie's voice wavered as he asked, "Why is everyone here?" His usual confidence melted away under the weight of their scrutiny. I took a deep breath, gathering my strength to express the hurt that had been building inside me. "Willie, you left Catherine and me alone when we needed you the most. I was in the hospital, and you weren't there," I said, my words carrying the full weight of everything I had been holding back. I turned to face our families. I told them everything. Willie's posture deflated. His bravado vanished as he searched the room, looking for someone to back him up, but no one did. "It's not just about this, Willie," Russell interjected, his voice heavy with disappointment. "It's about all the times you've put Carol before your own family." Carol, who usually wore her confidence like armor, now looked uneasy. Her gaze shifted between the floor and the upset faces around her. Willie tried to defend himself, stumbling over his words, offering excuses and justifications. But the room was thick with tension, and his words fell flat. For me, this moment was decisive. I realized I couldn't keep living like this, overshadowed by Willie's neglect. It was time for change, time to stand up for myself and protect Catherine. The meeting ended without any clear resolution, but for me, it marked the start of a new chapter, one where I would no longer tolerate being overlooked. The message from that day was crystal clear. I had the unwavering support of our families, and Willie's indifferent facade had completely crumbled as they left. His parents cast sympathetic glances my way, an unspoken acknowledgement of their son's failings. That night, as I lay in bed, the day's confrontations replayed in my mind, stirring a whirlwind of emotions, anger, disappointment, but also a growing sense of empowerment. Willie's true nature had been exposed, making it painfully clear that it was time for me to take control of my own life. The days that followed were tense, filled with unspoken words and strained silences. Willie tried to maintain some semblance of normalcy, but the air between us was thick with tension. During this time, I took to reflecting on my deep unhappiness and the undeniable need for change. The decision I was edging toward wasn't an easy one, but it felt necessary, like finally breathing after being suffocated for far too long. One evening, as Willie casually flicked through TV channels, I stood before him, folder in hand, my heart pounding but my resolve unwavering. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady. He looked up, irritation flashing across his face. "What now, Amy?" I took a deep breath and handed him the folder. "I want a divorce," I declared. Willie stared at me, disbelief and scorn etched across his face. "Divorce? That's absurd. Amy, you're blowing things out of proportion," he retorted. I shook my head, feeling the surge of empowerment wash over me. "It's not an exaggeration. I've thought long and hard about this. You've consistently prioritized Carol over me and Catherine. I can't continue like this." Willie sneered, his voice dripping with condescension. "You think you can manage alone? Don't be naive, Amy." His words were meant to hurt, but I stood my ground, unshaken. "I'm not naive, Willie. I understood the weight of my decision, but I would rather face uncertainty than continue feeling invisible in my marriage." Willie's cold laugh echoed through the tense air, a bitter sound that seemed to fill the room. "Good luck, Amy. You'll regret this once you realize how tough it is out there." His dismissive tone only strengthened my resolve. My anger flared, not just at his words but at the years of being sidelined, overlooked. This moment, though fraught with challenges, marked the beginning of something new for me. It was a step toward reclaiming my life and my worth. Maintaining my composure, I firmly replied, "This is my decision, and I'm sticking to it." For a brief moment, it seemed like Willie might argue further, but instead, he just shrugged, a smug smirk spreading across his face. "Fine, have it your way. But remember, I warned you," he said dismissively, turning back to the TV and ignoring me once again. Amidst the whirlwind of emotions, fear was certainly present, but what dominated was a deep sense of liberation. I was finally taking charge of my life, stepping out of the shadows. The next day, I began the legal process for the divorce. The paperwork and legal procedures were overwhelming, but my resolve was firm. My parents and my brother Russell provided invaluable support, helping me navigate each step with encouragement and care. As the process unfolded, Willie's true nature became more and more apparent. He was dismissive and uncooperative, attempting to intimidate me into backing down. But I stood my ground. bolstered by the support of my family and a growing sense of empowerment. With time, the cracks in Willie's facade grew wider. The charming, confident man had married revealed himself to be selfish and manipulative. His true self was now laid bare for everyone to see. The divorce proceedings were long and difficult, but I faced each challenge with bravery. Every step forward was a testament to my newfound determination. I was no longer the woman who lay ignored and in pain on the kitchen floor. I was reclaiming my life, my dignity, and my happiness. The divorce process was exhausting, punctuated by Willie's constant attempts to undermine and belittle me. In our meetings, he would sneer and make cruel remarks about my parenting and my future without him. However, his words only fueled my resolve to break free from his toxic grip. "Enjoy your struggles, Amy," Willie taunted during one of our final meetings. "You'll soon see how good you had it with me." His arrogance was infuriating, but I remained calm. I'd rather face challenges every day than spend another moment with someone who has so little regard for his family. I replied firmly, and for a brief moment, Willie's smug demeanor faltered. Anger flickered in his eyes before he quickly masked it with a scoff. My resolve was clear. I was moving forward, no longer tethered by his disdain. I could feel the impact of my words. I had struck a nerve. When the divorce was finalized, I was overwhelmed by a strange mixture of relief and anxiety. I was finally free from Willie, but the road ahead still seemed daunting. Yet as I stepped out of the courthouse, a surge of liberation washed over me, revitalizing my spirit. It was as if I had shed an unbearable weight. In the weeks that followed, Willie's life began to unravel. The neglectful behavior he had shown during our marriage, combined with the news of our separation, quickly became the subject of gossip among his coworkers. Those who had once admired him now looked at him with pity and disdain. His charming facade had crumbled, exposing the pettiness and selfishness beneath. The news of our divorce spread swiftly through the community, largely thanks to my well-connected cousin. Willie, who had always been obsessed with his image, suddenly found himself the target of whispered conversations and judgmental glances. Carol, too, couldn't escape the scrutiny. Her involvement in our marital issues became widely known, and friends and neighbors began viewing her with suspicion. The once solid bond she had shared with Willie now appeared strained and uncomfortable. One evening, as I picked up Catherine from school, I overheard a heated argument between Willie and Carol outside their house. Their voices were thick with blame and resentment. "It's your fault we're in this mess," Willie shouted, frustration lacing his words. "How dare you blame me?" Carol snapped back. "You're the one who couldn't keep your family together." Their public quarrel was a stark contrast to the united front they had once displayed. The discord sowed by their actions had finally come to fruition, and now they were dealing with the consequences. As I walked away with Catherine, a sense of vindication washed over me. Willie and Carol were now reaping the fallout of their selfish choices. It was a harsh lesson, but one they had justly earned. The challenges they now faced were entirely of their own making. That night, as Catherine slept peacefully in her room, I found myself at the window, reflecting on the tumultuous months that had passed. The journey had been arduous, yet it had led me to a place of strength and self-respect. I had stood up for my dignity and Catherine's future. Although the road ahead was uncertain, I felt equipped to face it with newfound confidence. In the wake of the divorce, life began to settle into a quieter, yet more fulfilling rhythm. The burden of my unhappy marriage had lifted, replaced by a refreshing sense of independence. I embarked on rebuilding my life, step by step, with Catherine by my side. Securing a job became my top priority. The gap in my resume from years spent as a stay-at-home mom concerned me, but my determination was unwavering. After several interviews, I landed a position at a small accounting firm. The firm, led by a supportive woman who valued working mothers, offered a flexible and understanding work environment. It was the perfect fit for me. Catherine, too, adapted to her new life with resilience. She started kindergarten, making new friends and diving into her studies with enthusiasm. Her laughter and lively conversations filled our home with joy and light, a stark contrast to the tense atmosphere that had once defined it. Despite these positive changes, echoes of the past occasionally resurfaced. One afternoon, while dropping Catherine off at school, I overheard a group of parents whispering, "That's her, Amy. Her husband left her because he couldn't stand being around her anymore," one of them said. Their words stung, but I held my head high. The gossip and judgment were small prices to pay for the peace and freedom I now enjoyed. Meanwhile, Willie's life continued to spiral downward. His pride had been severely wounded, and his once flawless reputation was now visibly tarnished. Through mutual acquaintances, I learned that he had moved back in with his parents, a detail he desperately tried to keep hidden. This new chapter in my life, though occasionally marked by painful reminders, was largely a testament to my resilience and the brighter future I was building for Catherine and me. Eventually, the truth about Willie moving back in with his parents became widely known. Carol's situation hadn't improved either. Her meddling in our marriage had alienated many of her friends, and the bond she once shared with Willie was now deeply strained. They barely spoke, their relationship rife with blame and regret. As for me, I found comfort in the steadfast support of my family. My brother Russell had moved closer to us, providing a constant source of strength and reassurance. My parents lavished Catherine with love and affection, helping to heal the scars of the past. One day, while enjoying a quiet moment with a cup of coffee in my kitchen, I reflected on the journey I had endured. The pain, the struggle, and ultimately the liberation, it had all led me to this moment of tranquility. I hadn't merely survived, I had emerged stronger, more self-assured. My reverie was interrupted by the doorbell. When I opened the door, I found Willie standing there, a look of defeat etched across his face. "Amy, I'm sorry. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone," he said, his voice heavy with remorse. His apology, though belated, only validated my decision. "Thank you, Willie," I replied gently. "But it's too late. I've moved on." As I closed the door on Willie and the life we once shared, a profound sense of closure enveloped me. That chapter of my life had concluded, and a new one was beginning. In this new chapter, I was the author of my own story, free to shape my future as I saw fit. From the living room, I heard Catherine's voice call out, and a smile spread across my face. I walked toward her, eager to embrace the life that lay ahead, a life brimming with possibilities and hope.